Elias Ward, whose name filled business headlines almost daily, rarely found himself in places as modest as the Maplewood Diner. Yet here he was, guiding his mother carefully through the narrow aisle between booths filled with families, truck drivers, and the warm scent of buttered toast. Despite his tailored suit and polished shoes, he looked strangely out of place, as though the weight of his world didn't quite fit in a room lined with checkered curtains and humming ceiling fans. His mother, Mara, rested her fragile hand on his arm. She was small now, smaller than the vibrant woman he grew up with, shrunk not by age alone but by the silence that had swallowed her life 2 years earlier. Losing her hearing had turned conversations into puzzles, daily tasks into battles, and social moments into lonely performances of nodding along. But still, she carried herself with quiet grace. When they reached the corner booth, Elias quickly slid in on his side, but Mara moved slower, steadying herself before sitting. She scanned the room with a gentle smile, watching mouths move in conversations she would never hear again. People laughed, spoons clinked against mugs, a baby squealed somewhere near the kitchen. Yet to her, it was all a silent film. She placed a hand over her heart for a moment, as if grounding herself before turning to her son. Elias raised a hand to attract the server's attention, his patience thinning the longer they waited. His schedule was tight, and he was already regretting agreeing to this outing. But then Mara's fingers curled lightly around his wrist, her way of calming him without needing words. Her touch was feather soft, but it carried years of maternal authority. He looked at her then, really looked. Her eyes held a soft plea. Slow down. The tension in his shoulders eased. The diner buzzed around them, unseen by her, overwhelming to him. Yet in that tiny gesture she reminded him of the thing he kept forgetting. A time spent with her was the one thing his money could. The server finally approached, a young man with a tired smile and a notepad tucked behind his ear. He greeted them with a cheerful morning, but his eyes flicked nervously between Elias's suit and Mara's gentle, searching expression. Elias started to speak, instinctively quick, but stopped himself. Mara was watching him, her gaze patient, expectant. He slowed. "We'll need a moment," he said, enunciating each word clearly so she could follow his lips. Mara nodded in appreciation, though the waiter seemed confused by the careful articulation. As the server walked away, Mara reached for the laminated menu. The plastic cover caught the light, gleaming like a thin sheet of ice. Her hand trembled slightly as she turned the page. Elias reached forward to help, but she shook her head, a small, stubborn smile tugging at her mouth. She could manage this. She wanted to manage this. Elias leaned back, exhaling. Around him, people moved through their morning rituals effortlessly, parents cutting pancakes for children, an elderly couple sharing a crossword, friends in work uniforms trading complaints about long shifts. The diner was a place full of simple routines, and he suddenly realized how foreign that felt to him. His own life was a ceaseless churn of meetings, negotiations, numbers, decisions that echoed far beyond him. Here, no one seemed to care who he was or what headlines carried his name. Mara touched his sleeve. When he turned, she tapped the menu and pointed to an item. Her nails, once perfectly kept, now slightly uneven, rested beside the word cinnamon brioche French toast. She lifted her brows, asking if he remembered. He did. A ripple of memory washed through him. Saturday mornings as a boy, stumbling into the kitchen while she whisked eggs and mixed cinnamon into the batter, the whole house smelling like comfort. He hadn't tasted it in years, hadn't had time. He gave her a small grin and nodded. Her shoulders relaxed, pleased that the reference hadn't been lost to the blur of his adult life. Then Mara began to sign. Her movements weren't fluid anymore. Her fingers hesitated, sometimes searching for a shape or drifting midair while she tried to recall a forgotten gesture. But the heart of it remained. Her hands still carried meaning. "You look tired," she signed. Elias inhaled, his jaw tightening before he caught himself. He glanced around, suddenly aware of how exposed he felt. No one was watching, but vulnerability wasn't something he wore easily. Still, he signed back, "Oh, clumsy but sincere." "Long week." Mara nodded, then tapped her wrist where a watch would be. "You work too much." A humorless laugh escaped him. "Someone has to," he murmured, then quickly added the signs so she wouldn't miss it. Mara reached across the table, her fingers brushing over his knuckles. Old, familiar comfort. "You need space to breathe," she signed slowly. Even machines break without rest. He opened his mouth to argue, a reflex born from years of being the one in control. But her gaze, steady, weathered, unwavering, held him still. For a moment, he wasn't CEO Elias Ward, the man constantly managing crisis after crisis. He was simply her son. The server returned, notepad ready. Mara straightened, menu closed with a soft clap, smile already forming as she tried to read his lips. Elias shifted toward the waiter, ready to translate if needed. Before he could speak, Mara placed a gentle hand on his forearm. She lifted her chin, signaling she would try. Her voice, when it came, was soft, and not because she meant it to be, but because she couldn't hear it anymore. Cinnamon, a broken bar brioche, a broken bar toast, she said carefully, focusing on every syllable. And tea. Thank you. The server blinked in surprise, then recovered with a warm grin. Absolutely. And for you, sir? Elias swallowed the tightness in his throat. The same, he said as the waiter walked away. Mara looked at Elias with a triumphant spark in her eyes, a flash of who she used to be, unafraid and unstoppable. And felt something in his chest loosen, just a little. Time with her might be slipping through his fingers, but for now, here in a modest diner with the scent of cinnamon floating in the air, he reached for it while he still could. Buy back.